All right. Welcome, welcome. If you are new here, I am so glad you came to join us. I hope you find this just to be a really good use of your time. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're watching on YouTube, go to the description, grab the handout. Actually, I don't think there is a handout for this one. Um, and then if this kind of legal technology is helpful, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos on legal technology talk. All right, this is a two-part series. So this is going to be part one, and I'm going to turn it over to Beth.
Okay. Give me one second here. There is a handout, John. It is in the handouts, if you can grab that. He's muted, but he'll go grab that for us. Sorry, I forgot to pull that up this morning. Okay, so if you're here, it's because you've likely looked at your Lawmatics pipeline and had a little twinge of anxiety. Or maybe you're just looking at Lawmatics, or maybe it's the sheer number of stages, the hundreds of stalled leads, the constant question of why a lead is still in a certain stage. So we often think of the pipeline is the solution to our intake problems. But today I want to challenge that, and I want to argue that for many of you, your pipeline's actually hurting you. And can create noise, mask inefficiency, and ultimately is slowing your firm down. So we're going to strip that back and look how to build a pipeline that actually serves your revenue. So to fix this, we have to talk about altitude. We have to understand the difference between a 30,000 foot view and a 10,000 foot view. If you've ever been flying over a flyover state and you look down and you see all those pivot circles on the ground, those circles are life. But at 30,000 feet, they just look like a game board of a game you've never played. Farmer looks at those and knows exactly what they are. He can tell by the color around and under them if they're harvested or not, and can make some snap judgments about the profitability of the farm. 30,000 foot view is your strategy. That's your revenue life cycle. That's the whole thing. At this altitude, you're not looking at who's in the stage. You're looking at how leads move from the initial contact to becoming a hired client, the overall. But then you have the ground level. This is the boots on the ground, the view that the team sees day to day, the individual inspecting and adjusting for the correct amount of water to the plants. Doesn't require a lot of vision, just day to day operations. The same day to day operations the team handles when running your firm. We don't want the pipeline at this level either. It's way too granular. 10,000 foot view is your operations. This is your actual pipeline. This is a bird's eye view of where the client is in their journey. It's not too high that you can't see what needs to be done or is being done, but it's not too low that you can't see the next one. You're looking at conversion rates, velocities, and bottlenecks. If your pipeline does not tell you that, and doesn't tell you how a matter moves through your firm, you're looking at the wrong map. The biggest mistake that we see a lot is that people try to make the pipeline do it all. They try to make a pipeline task list. It should never be a task list. They also try to make it a status tracker. It is kind of, but that shouldn't be the only one. If your pipeline is trying to be your to-do list, your dashboard, your CRM all at once, it's not an operational tool anymore. It's just a junk drawer. And we don't want a junk drawer. So how do you know if your pipeline's toxic? First is the clutter trap. I've seen Lawmatics pipelines with 20 or 25 or 30 stages. If your team has to scroll and scroll just to see the end of the process, you have analysis paralysis. When it's too complex, no one trusts it. They stop looking at it, and then the data becomes useless. So, second is notification bloat. Your team gets a notification every time a lead moves to a new stage, and you're training them to ignore your alerts. Automation should move the business forward, not just send ping pong notifications to an inbox. And third, the most dangerous one is data pollution. This is when you use pipeline stages for statuses like drafting retainer, waiting on the client, reviewing. Stop it. Those aren't stages. Those are data fields. A stage represents physical movement. If the lead is still in the exact same place in your process, just waiting on a file, then it's a status field, not a stage. When you pollute your pipeline with statuses, you lose your 10,000-foot view of revenue. You can't tell who's actually stalled versus who's just processing. So let's actually look at some of this. So this is a bloated pipeline. Some of these stages should be automations and tasks. Some should be data fields. No one really knows what's going on without extensive training. It's confusing, complex, and requires a lot of human intervention. We're talking about looking at all this. We sent them an email. We need to call them for an appointment. We need to remind them for the appointment. The appointment needs to happen. Then we need to do an appointment debrief. We need to call for sending the agreement, and then we need to send the agreement. We need to follow up on the agreement. We need to send the invoice. Like it's all, this is a task list. This is not a status of where they're at. This is task that should be happening. All of this reminder for appointment, debrief, uh, all everything all the way up here to this send agreement. This is one status. Should be one part. It makes it a lot easier instead of putting all of your tasks out through there. And I will tell you, just my observation, um, attorneys like this because they can go in there and go, oh, they know exactly what's going on. However, they really don't because it becomes useless. It's so hard to manage for the people that are actually doing the work that it becomes irrelevant to them. And then the attorney thinks they're looking at accurate information and they're not anymore. So that's the danger of what happens with this over time. And then we go to the other extreme, the sparse pipeline. It doesn't help anyone at all. Who needs to schedule what? What are they scheduling? And whatever. And agreement, do you need to send it? Do you need to follow up on it? Is it being followed up with? How do I know? This isn't even a 30,000-foot view. It's more like a view from the ISS. Um, so how do we fix that? Rule number one is simplicity is king. Keep it simple. KISS. That's it. If you can't explain your pipeline in 30 seconds to a new hire, it's too complex. Cut the fat. Rule number two is the exit criteria rule. Every stage must have a clear objective requirement to move to the next. Not maybe, not kinda. If you cannot define exactly what needs to happen to move a lead from one stage to the next, you don't have a process, you have a wish. And finally, strategic automation. Your goal is to automate the data entry. Well, your goal is to automate the data entry and also to automate that relationship. Use Lawmatics to send the client information they need to make the next step easy. If the step change moves the lead closer to the hired goal, automate the communication. If the step change is just an internal administrative tick box, don't automate it. It's just noise. So what does that balanced pipeline look like? I can explain this pipeline very quickly and accurately. Yellow stages are follow-up stages and have automations behind them that will move the potential clients to a lost pipeline and long-term nurture campaign if they don't respond. Purple stages are appointments or engagements that are scheduled. Matter moves there automatically when they're scheduled. Those have automations that are handling the confirmations, reminders, follow-ups for information, and you get a task to do something if you need to do something. That's it. It's easy. It just moves right through. Um, Makes it very simple for people to understand. If it's in a yellow, it's going to move out of there automatically if nothing happens. If it's in a purple, a appointment has been scheduled, and the exit for that is going to be someone physically doing something. In our case, it's filling out a form at the end of that meeting. And things are going to happen off of that. So that gets you very balanced. You can look at it, you can know everybody in yellow, they're being followed up with. All these people are receiving and texts on a schedule. We know that this is ongoing. For the ones that we're calling, those tasks are being created. We know all that stuff is happening. And for the purple, we know they're scheduled and they're in that process, and that's where we're at. And also being followed up with for things. We don't need to have a stage that says follow up with them to get their questionnaire submitted. Like it's going to happen. It's in the background. It's happening, and it needs to be balanced. You don't need to know that that's back there happening. So that's kind of what a balanced pipeline, well, that is what a balanced pipeline looks like. So the roadmap forward, a pipeline's a container for a process, not a container for a person. When you simplify your pipeline, you don't just get better data, you get better clarity, and ultimately you get more clients through the door with a lot less friction. And John, what are your thoughts? You're muted.
Uh, just a couple things is with the pipelines, you're right. Too many things in a pipeline. It also hinders one of the more important things because it's actual money in your pocket is your marketing tracking and reporting because there's no real data points to link to the marketing to generate proper ROI and reporting. You may have the data, but it's not being collected properly because the pipeline is so all over the map that then you're just doing the whole marketing. I'm throwing money at the wall and hoping something sticks instead of properly analyzing it. Why are they calling me for DUI? Well, you can't analyze that because of um, just disjointed pipelines. Another really big important thing of a proper pipeline in your signature client experience is always setting the what's next expectations. Um, so the phone calls and emails for what's going on with my case? I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. And they're mad, but that's your process. But a properly structured pipeline that isn't too much and it's not too little, um, that means the expectations are going to minimize those types of calls because they know what's coming. And that frees up staff time tenfold over a properly built pipeline and automation of emails and text and different notifications. So the impact of this is not just I can get good reporting, but it's actually part of your signature client experience that you want to keep the clients happy, get those Google reviews and positive feedback.
Right, absolutely.
That's all I have.
Awesome. Very good. And I pull up here on the screen, and the one thing that I didn't really talk about in there, but is another one, is this complex pipeline. A lot of people will put this in there, and I just thought about this. They'll put this in here, they'll put long-term nurture, not interested, and referred out, and they'll put that in their main pipeline. That needs to go to a lost pipeline. That needs to be handled elsewhere. These are people who do not, and this is really going to sound harsh, but they do not deserve a lot of your energy. These are people who have not responded to you. They're not really interested. There's a possibility you can get them back in with a long-term nurture or whatever else, but they don't need to be in your vision. They don't need to be that need automation's going to handle that. There's follow-ups going on with that. We're long-term touching them. That's where they need to be. They don't need to be here in the midst of everything else. And it then allows you to pull some very good numbers for this because if they're here in your main pipeline, you can then look at how many are here and not how many are just overall your overall matters. They've been moved out, they've been moved into a lost pipeline. A lost pipeline, has here's all these people, here's why they're here, um, here's how they got here, and we're following up with these kinds of people and not the other kind. So yeah, that's another part of that that really needs to happen in a lot of cases.
Well, and I want to add to that too. All of these different lost here, by having the proper lost pipeline, they fall into the right spots And each spot can have its own long-term nurture based on practice area, whatever you want.
Right.
But in your conversion metrics on your reporting, you can see where people are falling out to see if it's something the firm is doing, or if it was a marketing issue, or if it's just they just weren't ready to move forward. By putting that in lost, you can get way better metrics to improve your process as well without giving it that vision that Beth was talking about. It doesn't need to be in your line of sight, but it just needs to be there so you can pull metrics when you need it.
Right. And it allows you, like we split out this no response. Like these four are people that no responded after four different touches, four different areas in your intake. So you can really dial in your long-term nurture to them. Like if they attended a workshop, you can then have a long-term nurture to them that speaks to things that they heard in that workshop, not this general overall whatever. And it's more personalized, it's more direct, and you get better results that way. If they already came in and talked to you, you can have that directed, a more directed long-term nurture for that. Not just it's a long-term nurture, everybody goes in the same bucket and here we go. So that really, really helps. And then you have your spot for you're not interested. Like people who just these are the people that told you no. Like they're not interested, they're not moving forward. They're no. They're no. Um, you don't want to be sending them, even though it's not costing you anything, even though it is a automation, it's not costing you anything as far as time and whatnot, then that's fine. But why there's no reason to follow up with them. They gave you a hard no. Put them on your newsletter list. Make sure that, you stay kind of in their mind there if they need something, but they're the ones that told you no. And then, of course, the ones you refused, yeah, those get unsubscribed because if you refuse them, you don't want them to be coming back in. And you're referred out, the same thing. Like you're unable to help them. Don't bug them. They were referred to somebody else for a reason. They should still get their newsletter because if they need, your help, you want them to be, you want to be in their mind somewhere. Um, but then you're not going to be following up with them like you will these direct no response. So really having your lost pipeline be not entirely crazy because there's some people that want to split it out into all of these different reasons why they said not interested. There's other ways to do that. You don't need to do it here. The pipeline should be very linear and make sense to be able to look at it. And then if you want to delve deeper into it, you can do that in reporting and filters and all different kinds of ways.
Beth, that was the other thing I was going to say, and I was trying to remember it when I was typing my notes. Is a properly built pipeline is also going to free up people who are doing your growth partners with a lot of manual things that they can
Right,
actually build the relationships because if you have it properly set up in the pipeline of when data is collected and how it's collected, as soon as the intake, they know who referred them. It's going
right.
to email that refer, thank you for referring them. They've now scheduled a consultation. Here's the Zoom link or the time, and you are welcome to join and send them a 2 hour reminder. When you start getting into funding trusts, if they're a financial advisor and a referrer, it can send and say, hey, we're about to fund their trust. This is where you come in. We would love your assist. So that communication is constantly happening through this process while the growth partner operation is still happening in full force. And these referrers feel very, very included in the process and part of the team.
I don't remember who any of the referrals are because I'm like shooting in the dark here. But here's another tool that you can use. This is a very cool tool that's in Lawmatics. You can you apply a filter. So you can look at your pipeline, and if I want to see who all, Harper Lee referred to us and where they are in the pipeline. I can put this filter on and I can look and it'll show me everyone that they referred, which is awesome. Like you don't need to build a report for that. You can do that right here. And you can do that with anything in there. So if I go in here and I go, okay, I want to look at this and I want to know, wow, I have a lot of fields in here. Um, I want to know a certain workshop. We do this for moving workshops, workshop date and where they're at. Or I want to know workshop follow-up number. So if I want to see everyone who's been followed up with 2 times already for a workshop, all right, just hit the wrong thing. I should be able to go over here and go, huh, look at this. This one worked perfectly. We know that all these people that are in workshop post follow-up, all of these people have been followed up with 3 times, not four, not two. They've been followed up with 3 times. So what that means is they're going to be followed up with one more time. I have 18 matters that have one more follow-up. If I really want to push to get something, maybe I tell somebody, hey, use this filter and call all these people. It's very easy to do that. And you can do that on your pipeline. You don't have to build a special report and export it to Excel and then make them go call. They just work their way down the list. And
Yeah,
you
dialing
throw
for
it,
dollars
throw an
is really
extra.
easy in here. When you just need to fill an
Oh yeah.
appointment, there's so many paths. You can just say, I want to grab this group of people, send it out and say, hey, you know what? We had an opening for an icon tomorrow or a consultation or whatever you may call it. Um, if you would like to book that, go ahead. And you could probably fill it in 2 seconds using a dialing for dollars method.
Yep. Yeah. So making it available that it can work for you is huge. Now, granted, workshop phone number is 3. These people that are over here in consultation, whatever, means that they've already scheduled, they were followed up with 3 times, and then they scheduled a consultation and now they've moved on. So you don't want to do these, but it really helps you like narrow that down and really look at all those things. So yeah, lots of cool tools in there to work with your pipeline, but it needs to be functional. Can't be too sparse, can't be too cluttered. It needs to be like kind of that middle balance, 10,000 foot view is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready to go to Q&A?
Yes, I am.
All right. So real quick, before we wrap this up, just a quick note for anyone watching on YouTube. We always stop the recording here and then just open it up for live Q&A. That part isn't recorded, so people can ask real questions and talk through real situations. If you want to be a part of that conversation, we do this live every Friday at noon Eastern. It's free, and the link to join is in the description. Over the summer, it is on the second and fourth of every month through Labor Day.
Second and fourth Friday.
Correct. All right.